Hi everybody, my name is Greg Froehlich. I'm the manager of the custom applications and SharePoint team at Edgewell Personal Care. Oh, sorry. So I've been with Edgewell for about 15 years. Have about 7 years of experience working in SharePoint. I studied business at the University of Missouri here in St. Louis. When I'm not working at Edgewell, I like to ride my bike, play guitar, and spend time with my wife and our lovely 2 children. So quick question, how many of you have actually heard of Edgewell? Besides those people that I talked to earlier. So if you're not familiar with Edgewell, we used to be formerly known as Energizer Holdings. So Energizer used to own Energizer batteries, Energizer lights, along with the personal care products that you see over on the bottom. Different slide. Along with those products. In 2015, Energizer Holdings became Edgewell Personal Care and actually spun off the batteries and the lights into their own company and retained the personal care products. So we sell Schick razor blades, we sell Banana Boat, Playtex. Our latest acquisition was Bulldog, which is a men's skincare company out of the UK. We have 30 locations worldwide, approximately 6,000 employees. We're based in St. Louis. We're just out Chesterfield off Timberlake Manor. We share multiple buildings with Centene. I think I saw somebody here from Centene who's taking over every office building we know of. So a little bit about Edgewell's IT landscape to kind of get you primed for what we're going to talk about. Our main ERP system is SAP. We're actually in the process of upgrading to S/4HANA, so that's very exciting news. We have a lot of SQL servers, mostly on-prem. We are fully deployed to Office 365 with Exchange, Skype, OneDrive, and obviously SharePoint. So in SharePoint environment, we have approximately 1,500 sites. So you can imagine when we went through that split, we had to migrate all those sites from on-prem to Office 365. That was quite a challenge, but we made it through. In addition to those SharePoint sites, we have approximately about 400 InfoPath forms. So in addition to that, we have a lot of workflows that were developed in SharePoint Designer. So as some of you probably know, InfoPath 2013 and SharePoint Designer 2013 are the last versions that will be included in Office. So they will not be included in a future version. So what we wanted to start doing was try to figure out what are we going to do with these InfoPath forms. I know Microsoft's going to support it until 2026, so we have some time, but as a company we need to start to figure out what's our strategy. At the time, Microsoft didn't really have a one-to-one type replacement for InfoPath. They've come up with Power Apps at the moment, but it's still not a one-to-one replacement, no matter what they tell you. So we started looking into other areas, and K2 Appet, which they happen to be here and have helped me out with this presentation, it is a cloud-based form design solution, also with a workflow engine behind it that allows you to develop powerful forms with using little amounts of code. So we thought this would be a good InfoPath workflow replacement for us. And also be a good addition to our portfolio for Rapid application development, right? So if we didn't need to go to the .NET level, it's something that we can maybe build out with K2. It has a wide range of data connection options, connect to SharePoint, SAP, SQL, Microsoft Dynamics, Dropbox, and then also have a nice mobility application that we thought would be really useful because InfoPath at the moment isn't very mobile friendly for those that use it. So they have a nice mobile application that will allow you to complete these forms, approve tasks that come from the workflows directly from your device. And they also have this easy way to do approvals by just replying to a particular email with the word approve, kind of what they call a lazy man approval. It also provided us with different environments, a production environment and a development environment. As with InfoPath, you kind of had to create that on your own. It was difficult to manage. So this makes working through applications a whole lot easier. And it has tight integration with Office 365 and Azure Active Directory. So with us being Office 365 clients, it's a good fit. So we decided to move forward with K2 Appet. We decided to purchase a small number of licenses to kind of get it into our environment to start, so we could start using it to develop projects that were kind of in the pipeline. So the first project that we wanted to start working on was called a savings tracker project. The business wanted an application that would allow us to, or would allow them to track projects that had savings associated with them. For example, they had a project where they had to spend a certain amount of capital or expense, but it was going to save them this amount of money down the road. So we thought K2 would be a good fit to build that out, and it was. We were able to build out a nice, robust, user-friendly application for the department that would allow them to track all their projects that had savings associated with them. It was probably not the best project to start off with K2, considering we had no experience with it, so it really challenged our team. But in the end, with K2's support, their mentoring program, we were really able to build out this application for the company. So a little bit more about this, wow, sorry about that. So a little bit more about this project. Currently, the business was tracking these projects from the global operations functional area, and they were using Excel to track these projects. So there were some limitations there, where only one person can edit it at a time, even though it was in SharePoint. And they wanted to expand the scope of this project and this application. And so they started developing a solution in Access, but quickly found out there were some limitations there as well. So they came back to us, and they asked us to build an application that would meet their needs, that would allow concurrent users at one time, allow them to capture these financials in a way that would meet their needs. So they wanted to be able to enter it by fiscal year, by quarter, and show it how it would progress over 4 years. And they also needed some currency convergence to happen and some other formulas to happen behind the scenes. We won't go into those. But they also wanted to have some sort of informed representation of these financials. When they filled out the form, they wanted to be able to see how that spanned or how that looked over a 4-year plan. And then in the end, they wanted to have detailed reporting that they could take back to the executives to show, hey, these are the projects that are in the pipeline. These are the ones that we expect to have this amount of savings on. So this is an example of the spreadsheet that they were using. So the top portion shows just header information about putting in details about the project, and the bottom portion shows where they were putting in their financials. So you can see there were a lot of cells for them to complete. As you can imagine, the spreadsheet gets pretty wide and very, very unmanageable. So how are we going to help them out? So we're using K2. We were going to design a form for them. We needed some sort of back end, so we needed some data source, or a database, so we decided to use SQL. We originally explored using on-premise SQL, but there were some security concerns with connecting K2, which is in the cloud, directly to our on-prem environment at the time. So in order to continue with this project, we decided to take our first step as a company, really, into SQL, into Azure. And so we spun up 2 instances of SQL Azure on the platform as a service, compared to going with infrastructure as a service. And then we were able to leverage the create, read, update, delete options that are automatically built into the K2 Appit. So when you connect K2 Appit to a SQL database, it automatically has those functions there. Again, it tries to make it so you don't have to do as low code as possible. All we had to do was create some SQL views and stored procedures to bring that data back into the application and to write it with those conditions that they're looking for. It also allowed us to easily import existing projects that they had in those spreadsheets. And then at the end, it allowed us to generate powerful reports. Our reports that we use are SAP business objects. As I mentioned, we are an SAP shop. So we were able to generate a lot of good business reports with this tool, so the business could report out to the executives. So just a quick screenshot of the form itself. Obviously, this is a lot nicer than the Excel spreadsheet they were using. It makes it a lot easier for them to go in here and fill out their information. Quick little tab approach on the top, which is fairly user-friendly with drop-downs where you could standardize on the data as much as possible. And this is the calculations area where this is the meat of the application here, where the users go in here in the top section, they enter in their financials, tell it what P&L it's going to hit, how much capital, how much expense they're going to spend, how much they're going to save, what fiscal years it's going to happen in, and what quarters it's going to happen in. And then when they save that information, it goes to the database and all gets regurgitated into this grid on the bottom to show how it looks over a 4-year plan. So that's that informed representation of the data that they were looking for. So as we built this out, we were close. The team, they were starting to do some training on this application. They were getting ready to roll it out. And then the business announced a new program called Zero-Based Spend, otherwise known as ZBS. And they needed a very similar tool to manage these projects that were associated with ZBS. Again, these were projects that had some sort of savings associated with them. And how much is this project going to save the company going forward or over several number of years? So we determined that this application that we had already built was going to really meet their needs with some slight modifications. But because of the versatility of K2, we were able to simply create a K2, another form, and kind of bolt it onto this one, keep the financial section as it was, and move on. And so this is a screenshot of the form that we built specifically for the ZBS. Very similar. The only thing we had to do is add some categorizations, add a couple sections on the right-hand side so they could really figure out where these projects were going to, in what sorts of the area of the world were these projects going to hit. So they could take this information in their reports and report it back to the executives. So, and then again, we tied it all back with SAP BO reporting. And as you can see, in the end, we basically completed a completely cloud-based solution. So we have K2 that's hosted in Azure. We have our database within Azure, and then we have Office 365 in the cloud as well. So we were able to develop a completely cloud-based solution with very low amounts of code, with the exception of the SQL coding that we had to put in for the views and the stored procedures. And it took us approximately about 8 months to do. Would have been shorter if we didn't have the interruption from the new savings initiative. So what's next with Edgewell and K2? Obviously, we're working on transforming more manual processes that are done within little pockets of the company. So one is tracking leave requests. Currently, a lot of our departments are using paper to track leave requests that their employees take. So that is not very efficient. So we're looking at building out applications to help them out. We're also looking at modifying other applications that are being used by different areas just to kind of improve efficiency throughout the company. And then we're also looking to try to tie into SAP, since it is our ERP. How can we read and write directly into our SAP system or pull master data so to help with the company. So that's all I have. Any questions? Yes.
So the question I have for you is this. So on your last slide, you were talking about finding other areas where you wanted the K2 to be able to automate some additional processes and put the forms, I guess take it off of its current platform. Is there a plan that you have for tying a lot more of these siloed applications together and kind of bringing them together to where they're not just independent little standalone components and bringing them into ultimately tying with SAP? I'm not sure how you're using SAP
Right.
portions of it, so just kind of curious what that overall process is.
Well, there really is no process for that at the moment, unfortunately. A lot of times we get ad hoc requests from departments that are just doing something their own way, and they come back to us. What we really need to start focusing on is IT reaching out to those areas and seeing how are you doing these sort of things and how can IT help. And that's something we're kind of working on as an organization to do. But for the moment, it's just people sending in requests and saying, hey, can we improve this process a little bit? Can we add a workflow? How can we automate this? So then we take it back and say, is K2 the best application for that? Or do we need to move to more of a custom .NET application for that? Does that make sense? Okay, sure. Any other questions?
What was this idea about the zero-based spending? When I first saw it, I kind of chuckled as if it's something that we're not going to spend any money once we have this thing in place. What is the idea of zero-based spending?
Well, I'm not a finance guy, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer all of that, but it's really an initiative to save money. It's really kind of it's not just a 2-month or a 3-month project. It's going to be something that they want to implement throughout the company on an ongoing basis, where when they're looking at budgets and projects, they want to make sure that they're doing things as least amount as possible. So, for instance, travel is a good way to save money. So we're currently trying to figure out where we're at on travel and how can we save or meet a target for our travel, to reduce our travel expenses. And ZBS is broken up into multiple categories. You can look at it, I don't know if it's the standard way, but we've been working with Accenture to roll this project out. And so we look at contractors, we look at travel, we look at outsourcing, and all those ways to figure out how can we figure out what we're spending now and how can we save going down the road. So may not be the best explanation, but that's all I have at the moment. Yes?
Could you give us a breakdown of your project timeline, how long that you took to gather the requirements for that spreadsheet, what was the timeline for development, and the rest of the process?
Wow.
What seems like to me with a spreadsheet application?
Right. So it was long, but sure. Sorry. The question was, do we have some sort of timeline? How did this project break down into time? How much time do we spend on development? How much time do we spend gathering requirements? How much time do we spend user testing? Right. So I don't really have a breakdown of that, but I do know, again, this was our first application with K2. So we spent a lot of time kind of doing our own R&D and working with K2 to figure this out. So I mean, if I had to ballpark it, I'd probably say the majority of the time was development. I'd probably say at least 5 months was development time, working with K2, and continually going back to the user and revamping the requirements and going back to K2 and figuring out how do we do this, right? So, but I think adding the ZBS portion of that probably added another month or two to the development. And we obviously are thinking that more and more, once we get into K2, these applications like the UK, the leave application I referred to, that's something that the timeline on that, we only spent a month building that out. So we're getting better and better at K2, and I think we'll just continue using it more and more. Any other questions? Nope. Thank you.